Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Fix. As my co-host, Fix the Hair, apart from Paul, who's had the good sense to wear a cap, and myself, who's had the good sense to use the Babyliss ball. Welcome to The Fix, Mother Fluffer, Show 30. Neil, pick up the Fat Lab with you in the Mother Fluffing house, and as always, I am joined by this fine collective of gentlemen. Firstly, out of Latvia, Rolly Royce the Voice, Liepins. We got Ryan Blue Bowen, the man with the softest skin in arm wrestling, beautifully filtered. In fact, you know, this is him raw, live. You want to see raw, real Ryan? Come to The Fix, Mother Fluffers. There he is. And ladies, I regret to inform you that he is not wearing the tank top. It's Linn. Get the new batteries in. Stand by. All Linn in the motherfucking. Guys, we didn't do any questions last show. Not acceptable.
That's classic move on us.
So, I'm going to start with a bit of negativity. We show all angles here on this show. A little bit of negativity. So this one comes from Tom G.
And it goes to Ryan.
Yeah. I'm going to direct this one. Because that's how he rolls. Right, here we go. Get this. Tom G. A lot of good shit here. He starts positively. It starts alright, and then it goes on. A lot of good shit here. But I have a point I disagree with you all on. You like me how I went into regional dialect there? The whole search for losses and pull every strong guy you can is good advice if you only hang on a minute, I'm going to start that again because I fucked it.
I'm sure he wrote it wrong. It's not your...
I don't know, mate. It's been a long day. So I'll pick it up from the whole search. The whole search for losses, and in order to tie this in, we were talking about you needed to not be scared of losing, and you needed to seek out people who can kick your ass, or stronger arm wrestlers. So he's put the whole search for losses and pull every strong guy you can is good advice if, and only if, there you go, everyone you pull is a good practice partner. There are veteran pullers with the suck it up buttercup attitude that will grab your hand on a practice table and rip it off. Okay, so basically what he's saying here is that if you go to an arm wrestling practice and the guys there that are stronger than you behave like dicks, don't pull them. Now, I'm going to sort of start this one off by saying I think we're all on that page anyway. I don't think anybody's ever endorsed you going there and just getting a complete pacing. But really, that's on the guys you're training with. And it's on the other senior members of your club. If you're at a club and you see a guy who's a high-level arm wrestler just pasting new guys and guys who are at a lower level, I'm pretty sure most guys would say something, and if you don't, you fucking well should do. You don't have to say it publicly and, curse the guy out and make him look a fool, but you can pull him to one side and say, like I did with Ryan. When Ryan put that picture on Instagram, I was like, I didn't want to embarrass myself, so I called him over quietly on Messenger. I'm like,
Ryan, that filter looks fucking awesome.
I didn't want anybody else to know that I thought that.
No homo.
No homo. That's amazing. How do I look at?
Something for private messages.
Correct. That's what I thought. I didn't want anybody else knowing that I felt that, but I felt that. And really, deep inside of me, I wanted to know how I could look 9 years old.
Yeah. So I think that question, Neil, is, like you said, we're in agreement with that. I think he's just picking apart our words potentially and maybe looking at it from a different angle. But yeah, 100%. What we were talking about was seeking out opportunities to either practice with guys that are a touch ahead of you or, more importantly, compete with guys that are a touch ahead of you. I don't think there's any time that's too early. Let's talk about right from the beginning. When you're a novice arm wrestler, you shouldn't be bottling yourself up for 12 months trying to become a great arm wrestler before you enter your first tournament. Get in the mix. Feel it. Experience losses. Experience better arm wrestlers. Experience stronger arm wrestlers. And you will identify correctly the weak points in your own chain, and you can go and train on those things in the gym. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, of course, no. Yeah, if someone's been a dick, you walk away and you grip up with someone else who's not a dick. But that's common sense stuff. Easy.
Right. Yeah, I agree entirely. So we'll move. Hopefully, Tom, that rectified that or clarifies that for you. We're on the same page, brother. Nobody believes that that's a good thing, and we agree with everything he said. Shouldn't be ripping people's arms off. Sorry.
I think for the most part, in what he's saying about like high-level arm wrestlers, I don't think the true high-level arm wrestlers, I don't think really any of them are doing that. Like very few. I've never come across anybody who's not kind of like subscribing to the Devin. They'll ease you over and things like that. If the gap is that big, I think it's that sometimes the mid-level guys that might have one move. You know what I mean? And it's a pet move and it requires some form of speed or explosion. Those are the guys, and I know that there's guys at our practices. There's one guy at Morocco's that, any new guy comes and says, leave that guy alone, please. You know what I mean? But I think, like Ryan said, it's a common sense thing. If you grab a guy and he rips you open and there's nothing to be gained there,
walk away, find the new guy. Yeah. So, and you know what? The pendulum there swings both ways as well. Speaking from experience, on occasion you'd go to clubs, right, and you were the top dog. So you go somewhere, but you've pulled everybody in the goddamn club for like 3 hours, okay? And you're beaten to death and dusted up. And then there's a guy there who's been waiting all night and he's pulled like twice. And you go over and can I pull you? Can I pull you? Like, yeah, no problem, mate. So you go over and you pull, and you're like easing into it, and this guy hits you like massive driver over your hand. That's the other one. That's the other pet hate that I have, where you used to go, whoa, what the hell are you doing, dude?
Yeah. I watch it. It happens to Todd all the time. I'll watch it happen to Todd.
It's often followed up with a post about that being their greatest ever victory as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like flip.
And then with a picture like that.
Yeah.
Where they're just pinning you, and you're like going, you look like you just trapped your nut in a vice, and they're like winking at the camera. It used to piss me off. But anyway, let's not be too negative. So, we're moving on to another question here, and I think I'll put this one over to Paul. So this is from Quiet, okay? And he says, good show, guys. Did you hear about the fact that John will probably quit top 8? And what are your thoughts on that? Hi, John Brzenk.
Is that true?
I don't know.
Has anyone heard anything about that? Because
I did a little bit of digging. I didn't contact John. I just looked on Reddit and I found some sources on Reddit about that. John made comments that he hasn't trained at all. Mind you, just keep in mind that John doesn't really ever train.
Right.
And so I think mentally his motivation seemed to be like, I don't know where I think it felt like he was being left in the dark a little bit. It seemed like it was expressed that John was left in the dark a little bit as to knowing when and where and if.
Right.
And because of that, and just John's personality, I can imagine in that scenario, John being very like, I don't even know if it'll happen. Like, I'm sure Igor won't let it just fade out. Igor would do everything he can to keep John there, and John would honour anything that he's committed to, but it just sounds like John being John.
And that would be my first thought, is that maybe, like you said, he's not training all the time on his own. If he doesn't have an expressed, finite date, he might have lost a little bit of focus, but that doesn't mean that all of a sudden, they're going to flip the switch and we're going to be back to normal and top 8's going to be 3 weeks from now and John's going to be untrained. I think if he gets that date, I have a feeling, and there's enough money tied to it, there's enough motivation tied to it that I'm sure he'll jump right back on. He probably just needs a call from you, Ryan. Get him refocused.
Reboot his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Well, watch one of Ray's videos again.
Mate, if that doesn't, that's gonna, anybody. Somebody did a video of that positive on me, I'd be like, that's amazing.
Okay, I got you, Neil. I got you. Okay. Yeah, today I recorded a video for top 10 list pound for pound that you did, I think, 2 years ago, like 19 experts. And Eric Rosin helped me. Like, he sent me all the information. I basically have to do nothing, just talk. So the video is coming out, I think, tomorrow. It's a good one. It should be a good one.
I'm really looking forward to that. And while we're on Eric Rusin, mate,
Armwrestlingarchives.com.
I can't even begin. Eric Rusin is one of the, talk about unsung heroes of the arm wrestling community. That guy is Iron Dick.
Those who don't know, he's the creator of Arm Wrestling Archives, the biggest library you can find about arm wrestling history. Like, the stuff that you can find on the website that he has written down is amazing.
What a tremendous, tremendous facility that is for anyone who wants to understand arm wrestling. The history of it.
Yeah.
We do the old school. Have you ever seen the old school show? Eric comes on there. It's basically focused on the start of arm wrestling as we know it. In fact, in the first episode, we went back to the sort of origins of arm wrestling. You know, Roman times, the old stories about ancient Egypt and Rome would, you know, you'd become a centurion if you passed certain tests of strength, and arm wrestling was one of those. Went way, way, way back. You know, Alan Fisher was only like 25. And to be honest, we've come forward in time since that period. We're now up to the 1970s. And Eric Rusin, right, you'll just call up Eric and you'll be like, okay, Eric, what are we covering this week? And Eric's just like, just fact after fact after fact after stat after time after date after mega. What a guy. And he's the nicest, most humble person ever. Love him. He's iron. If you don't know the Arm Wrestling Archive, get yourself over there, check it out. The fact that that's as under the radar as it is a crime. Because, my God, that is an exceptional piece of work from an exceptional individual. Eric Rusin, great grip strength athlete, top-class arm wrestler. Love him. What a guy. What a man. Eric, you're the king, mate. Big props to you.
Yeah.
We love you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Neil, before you go to the next question.
Yep.
The John thing. I just wanted to put one more point that John's caliber is so consistently high that he's not like David Dadakan and Petrenko and having to maintain this momentum. His platform is so high that I think it's so easy for him to very quickly get back on top.
Yeah.
And it'll be 2021 next year, whatever. So if he wins top 8 95, that's 5 decades of him being the number one, or spanning 5 decades of him being the number one in his weight class.
Yeah, that would be great.
I mean, it's all Father Time that's the governance here, isn't it?
Yeah.
How far has he fallen away? Because just by age alone, if you're not active, you do drop away further, you know. So it'll be interesting to see if John is motivated and is physically able to do that. Can he recapture the greatness that we all know he has? But Ray knows that he has.
You have seen like Dadikan's video that where he did side pressure challenge.
Yeah.
Where I'm like 80 kilos, he takes it out, he puts his arm down, and the guy is like, straighten your wrist, and he goes back, curls it in, and gets to the side. 80 kilo real. It's so hard to understand how heavy that is.
Yeah, it's really, 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 really bad.
Now I think like, okay, for John, like, he will get inside. I don't see John top rolling him. And if you look at he almost all the time gets inside. He can lose in a hook, but the hand of that guy, and he's training now with Tsiplenko. He's big. Oh my God. John is great, but time is moving forward, and I'm looking at this matchup. A year ago, I would say John. Now I'm thinking like, especially I don't know where his shoulder is.
It's not only the shoulder. I think most of it with John is I'm not sure he gives a shit.
Yeah. Yes. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've no doubt that if he gave a shit, like really gave a shit, I actually believe he could win it. He would win it.
Yeah,
but I really don't know whether he does. I don't know whether he's bothered anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that. So what's he going to do? I mean, when you've done it so many times.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, people don't really understand. They think that winning is easy and maintaining being number one is even easier because you already became number one. Like, when I made the video, there's like Zoluyev, like 14-time right arm world champion, 5 different weight classes. In 2000, I might mess this up, 17 or some, I think 17 it was, in Hungary, he lost. He get top 6 or something. Everyone's like, King has fallen. He was never that good. He comes back, win next 2 years in a row. So it's very hard to maintain that level of excellence for everyone. Like, how do you get motivated when you have done it all, when you have won it all? Who do you have to prove something? So it's like, John is John, but is the fire still there? Does he wants, like, I don't think he wants to prove anyone anything. Like, really, when I saw him in Moldova, he didn't want to be there. He didn't look like he wanted to be there. He wanted nothing to do with arm wrestling. When we were arm wrestling at his house, he was so happy. We were talking about, we talked with him. After 20 minutes, he thinks what I said. He comes back. We talk again about it. We arm wrestle. It was such a fun time. And I think that's the part he loves now. Not the competition part.
I agree, mate.
Yeah,
I agree. It's a great shame that, what you've just said there ties us into our next 2 questions brilliantly. And we can use this in there because, to be perfectly honest, John, it's a shame that John is sort of sat outside of the sport a little bit unless he's called back in just as a competitor. You know what I mean? Because John loves to talk about, to dissect the sport of arm wrestling a great deal. He knows it inside out. He enjoys talking about it, not necessarily in a public forum, but in a more private setting. The guy will talk about arm wrestling all day with as much passion and enthusiasm as anyone. Okay, not as much as Engin, but as anyone else.
Yeah, don't go there.
You know?
Don't go there.
Engin is...
That's the battle you lose.
Yeah, that's not... Nobody does that. But outside of Engin, pretty much anybody else. So let's tie it into this first question, right? Because this is where we're going. This is from the guy, basically, who's got the greatest name ever. This is from Hong Long. If you don't rate that name, I think that fucking name is wonderful. Hong? Or shall I just call you Long? That's a fucking great name, mate. I would love to announce that.
It might be
Imagine going booking a restaurant with that fucking name. What's the name? It's Hong Long. Maybe just under Long. Guy be like, okay, Mr. Long. I'm going to get that.
Okay,
let's
go.
Here's this question. I was hoping you could add an additional question into your interview shows. Hong, for you, no problem, son. Specifically, I'm wondering on the impact of social media, Ryan Bowen, on the technical development of the sport.
Yeah.
Technical development of the sport. I know that social media has helped propel the sport forward by bringing it to larger and larger audience, but the question is, how has the technical ability of the average puller increased over the course of the last 20 years versus the 20 years previous? Brzenk period. How has the technical ability of the majority of elite athletes improved over the course of the last 20 years versus the 20 years previous versus the 80s version of the sport? Do you feel there has been an exponential improvement in the overall quality, or is the development on par with the time preceding the use of social media? Now, hold that thought on Hong's question, right? And Gordon F., this is yours. Great show, guys. Saw the episode where John and Engin, so this was off the Presence of Greatness, commented on the fact that they didn't believe there had been a significant move forward in the level of athletes from the 1980s, 90s era to the present day. What are your thoughts, Neil? And that was to me from On the Presence of Greatness. So Gordon will get that in, and we'll tie that into Hong's question, because they pretty much go in the same way. And I think the other thing you can throw into there is equipment and specific training implements which are now available. I mean, my God, I've been trying to order the art arm for like 2 years. And every time I try and put a password on there, it sends me over in Korean or whatever. And I have not been able to get one. But if I could...
someone from Art Arm watching this, send Neil some samples. Come on.
An art arm, blue for the right arm, red for the left arm, can't order an art arm. 2 years I've been trying. Anyway, there it is. But, that aside, Mazurenko equipment, things like the art arm, which Michael Todd's talked about and, swears by. So many handles, so many training, bits of kit for fingers, for wrists, for rotation, for pronate, every frigging thing you can think of. And so if we take Hong's question first, and I am going to throw this to Ryan, because from a social media perspective, you are like, you're everywhere, mate.
Mm-hmm.
The floor.
It's an interesting question. Social media, I believe, like, the first part of the question was, has it increased the level of the average arm wrestler? I say very much yes, of the amateur arm wrestler is better now than there's at least more of them. And I think, that's evident when I see a new guy turn up to a club. They move tremendously well in their very first session, where they didn't, even when I first turned up 7 years ago, I didn't move well, and everyone else who turned up at my time then didn't move well until we were taught. So social media, yes, has affected the average arm wrestler to a very, very, very large degree in their technical ability. The second part of the question, has it affected the elite level? I don't think social media itself has affected the elite level much at all. Money affects the elite more than anything, and when more monies come in through leagues or particular tournaments, that will demand more professionalism. We do have more access to tools and handles and that, as you say, but I don't think, like I've heard John say very specifically that he doesn't feel today's top athletes are any more dangerous than the 80s athletes were. The calibers it has been very consistent. And I think until we see proper money, if arm wrestling paid like tennis and golf, yes, we would see an improvement. But the money in arm wrestling has been, let's just call it, consistent for the last 40, 50 years. And so the top end is no better, but I think the mid-pack novice is significantly better.
Just to sort of pick up on that point that you've made there, Ryan, when obviously we're talking about the top end, you made the point there, the athletes are no better. Which I think that's the distinction you've got to make here, isn't it? Okay, the weirdo, the individual that comes in who's mega. If you take that person, the guy who's winning a weight class or winning the world championships at any time over history, I think what John and Engin were saying there, and I tend to agree with, is that if you take the person who has that level of ability, that package capability throughout the sport, and you interject them into the present day, and they've got the ability to utilize the current training handles, the current knowledge, will they still be the man? Yeah, I think they will. Because, like you say, the rising tide raises all ships. We were talking about it under a different context only a moment ago. But ultimately, the same rule applies in that respect. The fact of the matter probably is that there is a greater depth of talent and the sport has moved on. I think if anybody, people have said to me, oh, you think the sport's moved forward since you were pulling and you were at your peak? Hell yeah. My God, yes. Of course it has. I mean, enormously so. How can it not have? Jesus Christ. You've got like, we were talking about it under another context, but you've got, how many followers Alex Brzenk got at the moment?
He's 700 and something.
750.
I've got a number of videos on the armwars.com YouTube channel where they've had millions of views. People are watching arm wrestling more than they ever have. You've got the World Arm Wrestling League doing their thing in North America. You've got the PAL doing their thing in Eastern Europe. We had Arm Wars in 85 countries for 11 years. Holy Christ, yeah. It's progressed.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Ray?
Let's get to Paul. I think he's with limited time.
Actually, good point, well put. Yeah, we're going to have to lose Paul in a moment, so let's get Paul's thoughts here.
I mean, all I can go off of is when I started, and I started when the Northeast board was there, and the beginning of YouTube. But there wasn't a whole lot of stuff on Facebook really that I could search, But as that stuff progressed, you now have like social media repositories for training and for technical things, and you also have access to the Elite Pro. You can just message them, or you can respond to one of their posts, and most of these guys will get back to you. So I think the access to information and the training tool, advancements they're undeniable. I know as far as talking back into, obviously I wasn't involved in arm wrestling in the 80s and 90s, but I've rubbed shoulders with a lot of guys who were like, Steve and Randy Stanaway and some of these guys who were old time, and they have been very honest in, the progression of the sport itself. Like, during this era, people only hooked. This was the beginning of the top roll era. People hated the top roll. It progressed, boom, boom, boom. They can walk you through the progression. So I think it's undeniable that the level of technique, even at the elite level, has to be higher now. And we have the ushering in of the King's move that wasn't really something that was acknowledged years back. Like, technique is ever evolving, and it's evolving at the elite level for sure. To Ryan's point about John, those weirdos who are at the elite level, strength-wise, may not be that much different, But when it comes to like the access to tools and the access to ever evolving technique as the sport grows and expands, I think that everyone has advanced. I think everyone has for sure advanced. And like Ryan said, I got new guys that come in and train, like young kids that are like not even 20, and they come in and they can do everything all over the table. They are more technical than a lot of our seasoned pros already with 2 years into the sport. It's amazing. They just don't have that long-term strength built. So I think it's progressed in every aspect.
And in relation to the weirdos, this is the thing that I always draw on. It's that unearthing the weirdo. It's how many of them have shown up. Because the situation is that it's harder for the weirdo to hide. It's harder for the weirdo to not spot arm wrestling, have an awareness of arm wrestling. Because the situation was where you'd be walking down the street and see, oh, I'm an arm wrestler. You're in your local coffee shop. You mentioned that to me. It's not even a sport. Now you come out of your local coffee shop and you're standing at the side of Devon Larratt and somebody walks up and says, you Devon Larratt?
Yeah.
Big difference. So the opportunity to find out the weirdo, to unearth the weirdo, to know how many of those are coming, it's never been more than it is now. And with things like arm bet, and the combination, that cumulative effect that we're seeing from the influx of the digital era, the social media, they're going to come. They're going to come. There's going to be more of them.
Right.
You start getting too many people participate, what's next?
That's another thing I wanted to kind of bring up. Like, I know we touched on the arm bet thing, but I just started really digging into it. And if you're tuning into this show right now and you are anyone who's interested in arm wrestling, let's say you're just a fan and you really don't want to compete, there is no reason for you not to get onto arm bet and put that in your profile. Because at a bare minimum, you can go watch it at practice or you can go watch an event. This thing is going to take us to a whole nother era. And I think it's going to be the first stage for legitimizing like the team style. Like, you are going to have regional groups that are legitimate and they are there, and it's going to establish routine. It's going to it's going to expand everything. More from a training aspect, and availability to the younger age groups. So if you are not on, and it's not just Devin, something to just do because Devin's telling you. It's something to do because if you support this sport at all and the growth of it, get on their log on and converse with people and let them know where you're at, because it is the next step for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think. You made a good point there about, it isn't just a personal thing with Devon. It's the opportunities that can come from this for everybody in and connected to the sport of arm wrestling, including the guy who hasn't got in but he's thinking about doing, are massive. This is a tool to be utilised. And it goes back to you. Let's say, okay, well, how many times do you get this question, right? Somebody will send you something through and they're like, I got one the other day from a guy who lives, or a kid who lives in the Isle of Man, okay? It's just off the UK mainland. He's like, well, I want to get into arm wrestling, but there aren't any clubs in the Isle of Man. How do I do that? And I said, look, straight away, I've got that option. I said, here's one for you. Are you familiar with Armvet? And I send him the link over. I said, just plug in your details in there and you might be surprised. There might be 4 of you, just the same. Somewhere, there might be one in Douglas, one in Peel, one in Ramsey. They all want to arm wrestle, but they don't think there's any arm wrestling on the Isle of Man. 4 of you guys get together, suddenly you're off. You've got that, it's that embryonic, there's your Isle of Man club all of a sudden. And that opportunity can recreate itself all over the,
Anywhere.
Yeah. Huge tool to be utilised as...
So excited the other day. Ray knows about this. One of his fellow countrymen. I just was tuning into Armbet, and next minute I was just looking for someone strong. I just want to get a grip up with someone strong that wasn't Lachlan or Jordan, and I see this dude that just clearly is a pro arm wrestler. I'm like, and he's got a Latvian name, and I'm like, hang on. That said he was 7.2 kilometers from me, and I'm like, what is going on? I start messaging this guy. Our internet connection was dodgy. It wasn't going through. Next minute, Ray's on the phone to me saying, dude, this is like my friend. And I'm like, I'm riding the biggest high thinking he's a pro Latvian arm wrestler here in Brisbane. And then I crash down to the lowest of lows when Ray lets me know he's in quarantine and he's he couldn't get off the ship, but he was there in Brisbane momentarily, and it was Armbet that showed me that. So,
well, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? I mean, under any other circumstances, apart from the fact that we're in COVID, that would have been a hookup opportunity. We can just go get an hour's pulling in. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's friggin' awesome.
Yeah. I can't wait to travel for work. That used to be a pain when I had to travel for work for a couple of weeks.
Now it's adventure.
Yeah, now I'm going to be able to find
who I'm going to meet.
Yeah.
Arm wrestling Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, prior to that, it was like Grinder. But now...
Yeah.
Took me a second.
I was going to say, how many times have I got to throw these out there? And nobody...
I got it. I was straight on you, Neil. All good.
Worryingly, I told the joke and Ryan got the joke. I mean, what I'm saying?
Okay, let me weigh on all this social media and the growth of the sport. Of course, I cannot speak about the 80s and 20 years before. I would really say the expansion of the sport has happened in the past 7-8 years. 7-8 years are the biggest ones. The YouTube, of course, has helped us in the success of some arm wrestlers. And we know Devon is big, but Tsiplenko was really big in a Russian side before Devon was big. Like huge. People know him. And the new guys that come in and they have sit and watched the sport, yes, they move better. They know the tools. Everything is right there. The level of quality has grown. But I would say the quality of top arm wrestlers has grown. Like if you look at Russian, Ukrainian, Kazakhs, Georgian, because of the school, because of the community. Community has gotten stronger right there, better. They get rid of this. I like... You go to any world championship, watch any Kazakh athlete, they have better techniques than any of us. Any
Kazakh team are friggin'.
Yes, the pinnacle of technique. It's like everything they do, it looks perfect. The execution and everything else. They might not be there all the time because some guys are just stronger. So, of course, the handles and everything else helps, but I think the big thing will happen in next 10, 15 years. I have made this comparison. We were sitting at John's and I told them, the same thing is going to happen that happened with powerlifting. The powerlifting, the records 30 years ago now are broken, the overall records, by 80 kilo guys that are not on gear. And it's a big difference because the theories of training has gotten out. Everyone can test it, can see what works, what doesn't work, and everything has evolved. How I trained powerlifting when I started training at all in 2007 and 8, it's completely different now. Like 5 to 5, no one even bothering with that. There's other stuff that we have figured out this works. Like if you're training with equipment this, you're training without equipment this, you're training on gear this, without gear this. Arm wrestling is going to do the same evolution. This is why I started the channel. That was the idea behind it, to give some good information out. And I know it's been working out. It's already starting, but more. We need more. Everyone has their own ideas. Everyone has their own techniques. Giannis, we cannot think about everything. It's not like we know everything. No, we know our stuff. But it's really good to see other people's perspectives and things. And I think this is the biggest part of evolution of the level. As soon as we get out enough information that enough people can apply it, test it, and try it, then we will see big changes. Because
crossover platforms are huge as well. Things like CrossFit. Things like where people, we saw what happened in CrossFit where guys come in and they're throwing around, guys at relatively lightweight classes are suddenly strong as hell in a load of areas.
Yeah.
And then that guy crosses into something else and that guy, now look at Larry Wheels and the guys that are popular. He's got, this dude's come over and trained with Larry and he's a friggin' monster.
Yeah.
Devin goes over there, trains with him for 5 minutes. Some guy comes in the gym who's clearly a weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that story, yeah.
Just a massive base of crossover potential.
We just need time. The media is right there. We need time and people. We need guys that are willing to share their information, who are willing to make these videos. It doesn't pay a lot. You will not become instantly super famous and, dripping in pussy or something. No. But you will do your fair share.
Says the man with 5 cats asleep behind him on a goddamn set.
Don't worry about that. But you will do your share and the sport will grow. And in 20 years, we will see something completely different. We will see guys really understanding the sport of arm wrestling as it is, not just from the fans' perspective, but you could find everything. And we are all doing our share in creating that situation. Because I thought we have given out so much good information with Giannis that I thought okay, if someone gets this info and they come and they will be good. And I have some guys new that I'm coaching and they send me videos and I have to micromanage them because they have gotten what I really think is a bad information on how to train and they're applying it into the arm wrestling. And so you have to get rid of stuff, a lot of stuff. And again, evolution's going to happen and people will understand what works and what doesn't work. We are not right there. We're maybe 20% there. So the future is bright. Armbets will do their part. We are doing our part. And I think the sport will look different. I will not dream the Olympic dream, but we can dream other dreams, where it's big, where everyone knows who the number one guy in arm wrestling is in any weight class at the World Championship, where they follow, where they see, and where some of us are superstars. And that would be, I think, the good part of the sport, because that will attract money, that will attract other things, and we need it. And again, I made the video and I'm on Devon's dick, but I live by it. Yeah, he's the most important guy right now. And someone is commenting, what about Denis Tsiplenko? What about John Brzenk? It's you cannot compare what Devon has done, to guys that are just good. There are a lot of guys that are good. They win the tournament, they go home. They do not spend more time.
It's layers of involvement. An athlete is an athlete, you got to, when I started with Arm Wars, I made a very, very conscious decision in my mind. What next? What am I going to achieve? And one of the motivating factors there was, the motivating factor for me was, and is and has always been, that when my sons reached maturity, I wanted them to be able to be a full-time, well-paid, professional arm wrestler. That was my motivation. End of.
Yeah.
I wanted to try and elevate arm wrestling to that extent. And everything I've been involved with from a project perspective, trying to push the sport, further the sport.
We are very close to that. Very close.
It's It's awesome. Well, I don't want to curse us, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's really good. And the combined effort globally in that environment, things like, even Mazurenko, WAL, all these things, people will see them, they're in opposing camps. Not at all. No, they're not. Mazurenko do amazing shows. They're just different arm wrestling shows, but the equipment's first class. The production of the shows are first class. With World Arm Wrestling League, the same situation. That buzz, that hype, it's all good. It's all positive, It's creating fans. It's creating a presence for the sport. Arm bets is the next and potentially most exciting layer on that cake. And, can you imagine if Engin, right? Engin's there and he's come to the end of his career, and he's in a country like Turkey, which is arm wrestling obsessed. I used to love going on holiday to Turkey because you end up in a bar, you'd end up arm wrestling people on. It's just, they love it. They love arm wrestling, which was cool as balls. So you're Engin Terzi, right? And you decide, what am I going to do? I'm not going to be really, I'm not going to compete anymore. I'm not focused on doing that. But the man is obsessed with arm wrestling. He's a font of knowledge. He's got training, techniques and perspective coming out of his ears. And God knows he never tires about talking about arm wrestling. I mean, Engin's wife be like, Engin, you're obsessed with arm wrestling. It's even affecting your sons. And he'd be like, look, leave straps and chalk out of it. Motherfucker does nothing else. Only talk about arm wrestling, right? So Engin's got the opportunity now where he could create a career from that. In the next stage, he could be like, you know what? He used to be an ice cream man. Real talk, he was. If he's still got the ice cream van, bang, put a few stickers on that bad boy, get the old, tune calling, get on arm bets and say, Engin Terzi, road show. I'm off. I'm going around Turkey. I'm going to be in this place in 20 minutes. I'm going to be in this place in an hour and a half. You can roll up. You can get trained by Engin. I am absolutely certain that there are a lot of people there, novice guys, that would pay for Engin to come and train them for an hour. He's become a mobile hairdresser. Awesome.
Yeah.
Just a great, we haven't even got into thinking how that can work and how that can benefit people. Exciting times, mother fluffers.
That's right.
Isn't it? Exciting times. Guys, 42 minutes into this show. We're going to make it a little bit of a short one because we didn't want to lose the Linn factor. Paul was on a finish, and that shows you the character of Paul Linn. He's like, while we've been doing this, he's been texting saying, is there any way I can push this shit back to 10 minutes? No. Ladies and gents, we're going to let him get on to do what he has to do now, and we're going to wrap up the show. If this is your first visit to the Supernatural Strength channel, please like the show, share, subscribe. We will be back with the next episode, which will be show 31 of The Fix very soon. Till that time, ladies and gentlemen, take it easy, peeps.